نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اتل ما أوحي إليك من الكتاب وأقم الصلاة إن الصلاة تنهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. Respectful friends, the verse that has been recited is a continuation of Surah Al-Kabut. However, it is the opening verse of the 21st Juz, the 21st chapter of the Qur'an. If you recall in the previous verses that we had done, there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had mentioned some of the Anbiya alayhi salatu salam and the manner in which they called their nations towards Tawheed, how they carried out the duty of da'wah towards them, and along with that the objections or the dejection from their people, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had then punished them. On the same topic of the aspect of da'wah towards the people, Allah ta'ala mentions to Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam that utlu ma uhi ilayka min al-kitabi wa aqimi as-salah. Allah ta'ala mentions two things here. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here addresses Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam. And the reason why Allah ta'ala addresses Nabi Kareem sallallahu sallam is so that Nabi Kareem sallallahu sallam can set this as a precedence and as an example to the ummah. So it is the ummah that is in need of this. The first thing that Allah ta'ala mentions is that utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab, that recite from the book ma uhiya ilayka, that which has been revealed to you. That is one, and the other is wa aqim as-salat, and establish salat. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar, as verily salah prevents from fahsha, from immoral behavior, and wal munkar, and evil. وَلَذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَصْنَعُونَ. And without doubt, the dhikr of Allah is the greatest, and Allah knows what you do. So two things Allah Ta'ala mentioned here. One is utlu ma uhi ilayka min al-kitab, telling Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam to continue reciting the kitab, that which has been revealed to you, min al-kitab, from the kitab. As the recitation of Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, this is da'wah to the people. So Allah Ta'ala is addressing Nabi sallam saying that do not give up reciting the Qur'an to them, and do not stop propagating the Qur'an to them, but continue reading the Qur'an. Because the Qur'an is that which is ma uhiya ilayka, that which Allah Ta'ala has revealed to you. So continue reciting the Qur'an. Hence here the utlu ma uhiya, which is a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and also here wa aqimi as-salah, which means that continuously or continue to recite. It doesn't just mean recite and that's it, or it doesn't just mean to establish salah and that's it, but to continue establishing salah, to continue reciting the Qur'an. Wa aqimi as-salah, and establish the salah. And as I mentioned to you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam. So if Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi sallam implements this, then this is a lesson to the ummah, and how much more we need to also do the same. So two things Allah Ta'ala mentioned here, and along with it there is mention of the benefit of what salat does. So one is utlu ma uhi ilayka min al-kitab wa aqim as-salah. These are those two things. And before we come to the actual meaning of what establishing salat is, Allah Ta'ala mentions here the kitab, the recitation of the kitab, and also that of salah. There is also a link here because the Qur'an is what is recited in the Salat. The Salat is in need of the Qur'an is what is recited in the Kitab. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that to recite that which Allah ta'ala has revealed from the Kitab. And the reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions here utlu as in not just once but continue, there is the continuity in the meaning of utlu. That continuously recite the Kitab. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this is unfortunately because we do not actually understand Arabic or the meaning of the Quran. It may not make so much sense to us. But for those who do understand the Quran, the reason why we are told to continuously read the Quran is because the message of the Quran is such that when a person recites the Quran, you will not understand the Quran fully when you read it one time. And the more and more that a person recites the Quran, the more and more the understanding of the Quran will come up to an individual. More and more, a person will be able to understand new things, and that is what is so unique about the Quran. If a person was to just recite it once and try and do the tafsir or just read it once, they will not understand everything of the Quran. The more you read it, more and more and more, ulum and knowledge of the Quran opens up. And especially when a person recites the Quran with the understanding of the Quran. Meaning even those who understand the Quran, they can also just read the Quran but without actually focusing on what is being mentioned in the Quran. And the other is that a person reads the Quran focusing on what Allah Ta'ala is mentioning. And in that too you will find that each time you read the Quran, every verse, every ruku, chapter, there will always be something new that comes to light. That is how much ulum there is. And people have written, mufassirin have written so many chapters on the tafsir of the Quran. And we do not even have all that information, knowledge in front of us. Which just shows us how much knowledge there is of the Quran. And aside from that, how much is even more so deeply hidden in the Quran. So that's why utlu ma uhiya ilayka. And for those who do not understand the Quran, who may think, well, then that's fine, we can just read it once and leave it, because then we're not going to understand the ulum of the Quran, so what is the point? But just the way there is the zahir, there is a batin as well of the Quran. One is the ma'ani, the understanding of the Quran. So those who have that amount of knowledge to be able to understand what the Quran is saying, for them that ulum, that knowledge will open up, keep on opening up each time that you read the Quran. And this is not just with the Quran, I mean this is what is so unique in the Quran. But the ilm itself is such, hadith itself is so unique as well. And this is something, for instance, Sahih Bukhari, which through the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I have been teaching for a few years now. But each year that you teach the same hadith, the same ahadith, but there are always something or the other that comes to light, which may not have the previous years. Which this person even wonders as well that it has been X amount of years. And in that amount of years, it has not come to light as yet. You know, that specific nukta point that is there, or knowledge, is something that has not come to light as yet. So, new information, new ulum, ilm, keeps on coming as well. There is no end to studying anyway. There is no end to studying as it is. And even each year it becomes different. One year maybe the students got certain amount of information, and the following year maybe the ustad reads some other kitabs as well related to the kitab which was not before. Another again, new ulum comes, and another batch of students, they may get that which those who were prior to them did not get, which were not there prior to them will get. And then the simple thing that if only that batch were here now as well to be able to acquire this knowledge as well. This is ulum of deen. That's why Allah says, "Utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab." So those who do not understand the Quran, the ma'ani of the Quran, so for them the meaning will not open up, but yes, the benefit of the Quran will open up. That the more and more you recite the Quran, the more and more the benefit of the Qur'an will come to light. More and more a person will feel. For instance, there are so many people, and there are many examples of those who suffer from sihr, for example. And because of the sihr that they have, they will undertake various treatment for it as well. Many different treatments, and for years and years, and they will feel that maybe that treatment has not really helped them as much. But they have the habit of reciting the Qur'an. And they read the Qur'an. On a regular basis, they read the Qur'an. And they themselves will also say that if anything has cured us, or if anything has brought that under control or made a difference to us, it's not all the other amal that we've been doing, the other treatment that we've been doing, but it is the recitation of the Qur'an. It is a recitation of the Qur'an. And there may be even those genuine amils as well, who unfortunately there are very few genuine amils, who will even acknowledge and say to the patient as well, that had it not been for the recitation of the Qur'an, your sihr would have been a lot worse. That it is the Qur'an itself. Allah Ta'ala himself mentions there is shifa in the Qur'an. There is shifa in the Qur'an. And just like other medication, we do not just take something which is a continuous illness, we continuously take the medication. And when we continuously take the medication, that's when we find that the medication is working. Just taking it one off for something which is a regular illness, that medication will not assist in it. The Qur'an as well. For whatever ruhaniyat we have, issues we have with our ruhaniyat, whether it is to do with sihr or other aspects as well. Similarly, we come to a person maybe suffering or feels that there is no barakat in their wealth. There is no prosperity in their wealth. Again, the Qur'an is there as a means for that as well. That the more they recite the Qur'an, whatever the needs are will start opening up. So one is where a person benefits from the knowledge of the Qur'an, and the other is where a person will benefit from the shifa that is there in the Qur'an, and also the effect of the words of the Qur'an. Because when we recite the Qur'an, there will be many occasions wherein we just recite it in such a manner that the words are not having much effect upon us, the manner in which we recite it. But in that, maybe one khatam of the Qur'an we recited in such a manner, but maybe the next one we have recited it in a better manner, wherein maybe we have improved in our tajweed, in our ikhlas, our devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our niyyat or so. So maybe it was in the first round of the Qur'an, the second round of the Qur'an, that started having some effect upon us to a certain extent, certain percentage. And then we read the Qur'an again, not that we'd have to, or we finished the Qur'an, put it away, now another khatam. So we continue regular reading. So there is so much benefit of the Qur'an, and that will definitely, helps a person. Just as we were mentioning on the Islamic Majlis as well, how important it is for a person to make that change within them. And this is, the Qur'an helps towards that as well. And the more a person recites the Qur'an, they will feel that ruhaniyat within them, a dose of ruhaniyat. That's why recitation of the Qur'an should be done on a daily basis. Imperative, it should be done on a daily basis. And not necessarily that it has to be in large quantity as well. If a person is not able to read so much, or they do not have so much time or so, then each person should fix a certain amount, but fix such an amount that a person is able to recite that amount. Even if it is a page daily, that is also very good. But I am sure the amount of time we do have available to us, we are able to recite more than a page. That is for somebody who now is maybe working in the emergency services in the NHS or so, and they're doing double shifts or so, and every time on the paramedics on the emergency side, where in and out, they just call in and out or so. Maybe they might be in that situation that they may not be getting that amount of time for them to even read one page of the Quran, but majority others will and should have that amount of time that they are able to recite at least just even a quarter. That is like sort of a minimum really. When we talk about one page of the Quran, that is okay to make it easy for those who always have that excuse that we do not have time, so at least there is no excuse. But in reality, because you want the Qur'an, like anything else as well, you do not feel content on just a little of it. You want a bit more. Somebody is raping, then you don't want just one pull of it. You want more that you felt it, isn't it? So for things like that, you want a bit more. Just the little is not sufficient. The Quran should be the same as well. That the one page is there, it will have its effect as well. But you want it to be a bit of a dose that is going to have an effect on you. And 1/4 at least, that is at least where you can at least feel that you have read something compared to just reading so little that you don't even feel that you have read something. And those who can read more, all the better. But that regular recitation of the Qur'an, even though a person may think to themselves that they cannot feel any change in their lives, but definitely the recitation of the Qur'an does its job. It does its effect. And especially for those who are suffering from illnesses and that, there is shifa for them in that as well. Recite the Qur'an with whatever intention you need to. And a person will benefit greatly from the recitation of the Qur'an. But it is we who do not want to read the Qur'an, we do not enjoy reading the Qur'an. And how unique the Qur'an is, that any other book, novel of your interest as well, read it once, fine, twice, 3 times. That's it, how more, no matter how much you enjoyed it, it's not something you're going to enjoy reading it over and over. You get tired of it eventually. But the Qur'an is so unique, and that is the uniqueness of the Qur'an, that even those who do not understand the Qur'an want to continue reciting the Qur'an. It's not a case of, okay, I've read the Qur'an and I put it away, I'll give you a couple of months and then I'll read it again because you'll be a bit bored with it. No. You can read the Qur'an on a daily basis. That is how enjoyable the recitation of the Qur'an is. That a person does not get bored of reading the Qur'an. Yes, who gets bored is that person who doesn't want to read the Qur'an will get bored because they find it a burden. Those who feel it a burden are those who will find it difficult, who will not enjoy reading the Qur'an. And who might find it a burden? Those who overdo the recitation of the Qur'an as well. Who overdo the recitation of the Qur'an as well. We shouldn't be the case as well, that look, it's not a burden. And neither should we do any ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why, as Mawlana Rashid Ahmad Gangohi rahmatullahi alayhi would say, or Hazrat Hakim Umar rahmatullahi alayhi would expect, that any ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do it to an extent where there is still a bit of desire left within you. So that there is still that bit of desire, leave it at that point. So you want to get back to it again. You want to get back to it again. So you enjoy the recitation of the Quran, you enjoy reading the Quran. That's why Allah Ta'ala mentions here, Utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab, meaning continuously read, not just read it once, that you just read it in the month of Ramadan, or you just read it when there is a janazah also, or you just read it when on a Fridays, and that's the only time that you recite the Quran. That shouldn't be the case. Every moment, every single moment should be reciting the Quran on a daily basis. Every single person, without any fail at all, that a person should be reading the Quran. And those mothers and sisters who have days wherein they cannot recite the Quran, they will still get the benefit of the recitation of the Quran, even in those days that they are not reciting the Quran. That is the benefit of reading the Quran. And this is something that we need to bring back into our lives. And not that we just read the Quran when we now in hardship and difficulty, when we now want the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when we start reading the Quran. That shouldn't be the case. We are in need of the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at all times in our lives. So we should make it a habit of reading the Quran on a daily basis. And then Allah Ta'ala mentions, وَأَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةِ, and establish the salah. Which shows us, because Allah Ta'ala then says, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ تَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ, that indeed the salat, it prevents you from fahsha and munkar. What is fahsha? Fahsha is all those immoral and indecent acts, which every human being realizes and accepts it to be indecent. That is what fahsha means. Yes, in our times it's a bit different now because people do not have that concept. Every fahsha is acceptable and fine. But when we're talking about people who have aql, Muslim or non-Muslim, who have understanding, they'll all understand the harms of stealing, the harms of gambling, the harms of killing, the harms of drinking, the harms of zina. These are things which any person will actually understand. And those who are doing it as well themselves understand. And we realize, okay, we are doing what we know, we can see, we know the harms of drinking, is better not to drink. So all those things which any person logically thinking about it, we realize that these acts are immoral and these acts are indecent. This is all these are included in fahsha. And munkar, which means evil. Munkar are all those things that Deen and Shariat has deemed to be inappropriate. So what is fahsha, which means open, which every person understands that these are not good. And accordingly, these are impermissible in Deen anyway. And munkar is those things which the Shariat has outlawed and those things that Shariat has made impermissible. And in those, there may be those things which others may regard it to be fine, is acceptable, and not everyone will be unanimous that it is unacceptable. So that differentiates the munkar from the fahsha. Which shows us that salat itself has in it the capability of doing islah of a person. Salat itself has the capability, and through salah, the person's islah can take place. Because the whole purpose of islah is that a person stays away from munkarat, a person stays away from fahsha, a person stays away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that salah is what will prevent you from immoral acts, indecent acts, and such type of evil behavior. But for that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say here that to read the salah, but Allah ta'ala says, aqim salah, to establish the salah. Which shows us that when salat is established in our lives, that's when it will have the effect of preventing us from fahsha and munkar. And this is the quality of salat. That the effect of salat is, the salat will prevent a person from evil and wrong deeds. In a hadith it mentioned that a person mentioned to Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam with regard to a certain person, this person reads salah, he reads tahajjud during the night. He sends for salah during the night, but in the morning he steals. So he reads his salah, and the fact that he reads his tahajjud means that he reads his faraid. And during the time of the Sahaba Kiram radiallahu ta'ala, there was no such thing as them not reading their salah. This is the difference. During the day, no matter how a person, individual may be, but leaving the salat or something, like even after the Khulafa Rashideen, there were those rulers who were evil, who were Muslims, but not good rulers. They were oppressors and so. But still, there were those who would still read the salah. Not only that, but they used to be the imams as well. They used to be the imam. So it just shows that they would be the imams. But they were corrupt rulers. They were corrupt rulers. And there were those who were the rulers, and the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala had no option but to read salat behind them as well. There were those Sahaba who still would do, and there were those who repeat their salah but would deliberately be present there and not be away from there, because in order not to cause any commotion there as well, they had to also look after themselves as well. So they would read salat behind them because they would be corrupt. And when Usman radiallahu ta'ala was asked with regards to when he was under house arrest, he said, look, follow them in that which is good. Although they are corrupt, you do not need to follow them in everything. But in salat, they are leading you in something which is the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So follow them in that which is good. So you can follow them in salat, not that you can't read salat behind them. But to show that even they would not leave their salat. Corrupt people would still read their salat and they will continue with their corruption in that. So salat would not be left under any circumstances. And even now in many places you'll find people are not practically, or not sort of leaving evil, but when it comes to salah, they won't leave their salah. They do not leave their salah. So when this was mentioned to Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam, Nabi Kareem sallallahu ta'ala sallam mentioned that innahu sayanhahu bima taqul. Nabi sallallahu sallam said that meaning the salah that you mentioned will eventually leave this person from what he is doing. That you mentioned that he reads his salah, but he steals during the morning. Nabi said meaning the salah will prevent him, will stop him. And not long after that, this person made tawbah and he leaves his stealing. And that the salat has that power in it, that ability, that quality within it. But the condition is that aqim is salat. We established salat. Our salat needs to be how it should be. Then salat will become a means of preventing us from fahsha and munkar. Because here when it says preventing, it refers to two things. One is that the salat prevents you, meaning that it reminds you, because you read the Qur'an in your salat. So it reminds you of what the things that you should not be doing. Because when a person is reading his salat, at that time you are fully away from munkarat. And I gave this example not long ago in the Majlis as well. When a person is fasting, your day, throughout the day, although you're fasting, you'll continue as normal, doing so many other things. Mean that you can be fasting as well, but you can be stealing. You can be fasting, but you can be swearing. You can be fasting, you can be backbiting. You can be fasting, but be doing so many things. But when it comes to salat, that's different, because when you're performing your salat, you're only reading your salat. You won't be backbiting whilst you're reading your salat. You won't be stealing whilst you're reading your salat. You won't be swearing whilst you're reading your salat. So in this way, whilst you are in salat, salat prevents you from these things to remind you that, look, these are the things that you need to be staying away from all the time in your life. So it gives you that reminder, that is one. And the other is that it actually has the quality of making that change within you, but that is on condition that our salat is the way it should be. That's why Imran bin Hussein radiallahu ta'ala in the tafsir of Utlu Ma'uhi actually mentions that مَنْ لَمْ يَنْهُ الصَّلَاةَ عَنْ الْمُنْكَرِ وَالْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ فَلَا صَلَاةَ لَهُ. That person whose salat does not prevent him from fahsha and munkar, then his salat is not salat. He's not ready salat. His salat is not salat. And Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu ta'ala mentions, La salata liman yuti'u salat. The salat is not, that person has not performed salat, who has not obeyed his salat. I mean, the one who has not obeyed his salat has not performed salat. Obeying the salat is what? Tanha al-fahsha wal-munkar. That person in whom this change has not come about, he in actual fact has not obeyed his salat. And Sayyidina Abdullah ibn Abbas radiallahu ta'ala also mentioned something similar, that a person who performs salat in such a manner that it does not take him away from fahsha and munkar, in actual fact it takes him away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Meaning that this is the quality, this is the way our salat needs to be. That if our salat is not preventing us from fahsha and munkar, that is because our salat is not of that caliber. Like for example, the medication. If the medication is not doing its work, it means what? That the milligrams it's less, it's not as powerful for us, so we need to up the dosage of it. Or either that, or we are taking it at the wrong time. Or we are taking it at the wrong time, we're not taking it correctly. So we need to take it correctly. We need to take it maybe first thing in the morning rather, or we need to be taking it on an empty stomach rather than a full stomach, for instance. Or we need to be upping the dosage of it for it to have an effect upon us. Our salat is the same. And it is for this reason that so many years of our lives we pass performing salah, and we still feel that, look, and we are still exactly the same. Salat has not brought any change within us. It has not prevented us, stopped us from any munkar. And there are those mufassirin who mention that those who have such an objection, that how come my salat has not changed me from, or prevented me from fahsha and munkar, then they say the reason for that is because salat commands you, but you are the one who still goes against that command. Salat is commanding you to stay away from munkar and fahsha and munkar, but if you are the one who is doing it, then you cannot blame the salat for it, can you? You cannot blame the salat for it, that the salat is not changing me. Because it is you, the salat, you know what is wrong, but you are the one who is still doing it. And there are those mufassirin of the opinion that tweak the salah, change your salah. You're doing something wrong in your salah, rectify and perfect your salat, and then that salat will definitely tanha al-fahsha wal-munkar. That will then definitely take a person away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And how well this has been explained to us, The Shah Abraham Haksab Rahmatullah Alayhi gives a very good example in order for us to understand what Allah Ta'ala mentions in As-Salat Tanha al-Fahsha'i Munkar. Especially when we have this objection that how come my salat has not changed me, my salat is not changing me. So the Shah Abraham Haksab Rahmatullah Alayhi would give this example. And he gave this example on one occasion when our Hazrat Rahmatullah Alayhi was with Shah Abraham Haksab, his Shaykh, and they were traveling from Jeddah to Makkatul Mukarram. It was very warm at that time, and the vehicle that they were traveling in, the vehicle was very warm as well. So the Shah Abraham Haksab Rahmatullah Alayhi asked the driver, Anwarul Haq, that is the AC on or not? How come the car is so warm, it's not cooling down? To which he said, no, sir, the AC is on, but maybe somebody's window is open. Maybe somebody's left the window open or so. And that was the case. Hazrat Rahmatullah mentioned, yes, one of the rear windows was open. So they shut the window. When the window was shut, then not long after that, the car became nice and cool. When the car became nice and cool, that's when the Shah Abraham Haksab Rahmatullah Alayhi mentioned that this is how our kayfiyat is, our condition is as well. That the Qur'an says, for example, and that every neki in I.T.A, ta'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings about nur within an individual. Like salat will have this quality in it. But as the Shah Abraham Haksab mentioned that we do the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but as soon as we finish doing the ta'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ibadat of Allah ta'ala, we leave what? We leave the windows of our eyes open. We leave the windows of our ears open. We leave the windows of our tongue open. Due to which that nur that was supposed to remain within us, we let that out. Just the way here the car as well. The AC cools the car, but the coolness is what you let out. You let it out because the windows are open. Shut all the windows and then see how the cool air will circulate within the car. And bring what coolness within it. But you're going to open the windows, you're going to let it out. So this is exactly how we are as well. That we perform our salah. The benefit of the salah, the nur of the salah is there just whilst we were in our salah or whilst we may be within the four walls of the Jamaat Khana. The moment we leave from there, as soon as we leave from there, or sometimes not even before we leave from there, while we're just leaving from there, what happens is we see another Musalli, a friend of ours, and already we made some ishara with the eyes, making a ghaibat of another Musalli. So already from that itself, in the masjid itself, we've let out the nur of salat. We've left out the nur of salat. And then what happens is, when we do leave the masjid, now we're waiting for that friend of ours, and when he comes out, he says, what did you say? I didn't understand your ishara. I didn't understand what you said. So, okay, now, then he verbally mentions, then he starts doing fulawusi and whatever goes on about. So now he's in what? He's in the ghaibut of his, he's let out the nur from his tongue. And then while he's outside there, so one is letting it out from his tongue, the other is letting it out from his ears by listening to it as well. And then while standing outside as well, then you're not protecting the gazes, you sit in your car, moments beforehand, you're listening to the qiraat of the Imam Sahib. And now that you sat in your car, and now you listen to some Bollywood or some Bhangra, so that which you gain from listening to the qiraat of the Imam there, now by means of the ears, you're letting the nur out from there. So this is how Shah Abraham Haksab Rahmatullah Alayhi mentioned that this is to do all ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, if we were to keep all these shut, then that nur that we have gathered from the ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will start circulating within us. Then that nur of salat will reach our gazes. The nur of salat will reach our ears, it will reach our tongue, it will reach in our heart, our limbs, throughout our bodies. So then our hands will become obedient to Allah Ta'ala. Our legs will become, our feet will become, our tongues, our eyes, our gazes, our ears. All of this will then become obedient to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala if we leave it in, we keep it in and we protect it. So what we gain, and that too because of the nature of our salah, is very little that we do gain anyway. By being in the company of the masjid, by being in the company of righteous people, of musallis. As Hakim Umar Rahmatullah Alayhi mentions, if you cannot find any righteous person to be in the company, then at least just be in the company of the masjid, the people of the masjid, the musallis of the masjid. Because they are also, the fact that they are punctual on their salat shows that there is some goodness in them as well. There is some goodness in them. So at least they are people who are practicing their salah. So at least be in their company. Now in order for this salah to be of that nature, that it does bring a change within us, Allah Ta'ala does not say and to read salah, but Allah Ta'ala says, وَأَقِيمِ الصَّلَاةِ. And this is not just here but throughout the Qur'an, and this was unique with the Qur'an, with the salah. That when Allah Ta'ala mentions with regards to zakat, with regards to sawm, there Allah Ta'ala does not say establish sawm. Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Allah Ta'ala mentions that look, siyam has been ordained upon you. Allah Ta'ala does not say establish sawm. Because sawm is what? Sawm is just going to be for 1 month and that's it. Zakat as well. How do you establish zakat? Zakat you're only going to take out and give once. And that once a year. And that too if it's incumbent upon you. But for salat, there because salat is something which is going to be regularly in our lives, Allah Ta'ala says, establish that in your lives as well. The iqamat of salah. And the word aqim, qiyam of salah refers towards what? Standing upright. It comes from standing upright. And this standing upright does not refer towards just the standing upright position of salah, but upright meaning that everything should be correct in your salah. Meaning that everything should be correct in your salah. And that means that from the taharat, the cleanliness of your clothing to your body to the place that you are standing as well, all of these things need to be upright. Meaning all of these things will be correct. Otherwise a person has made wuzu, for example. Person has made wuzu, perfect wuzu, according to the sunnah, in the correct manner. But then when they come to read their salah, then they're standing on a place where there is impurity. The salah will not be done. It will not be accepted because they're standing in a place which is impure. Or it's a case of the place is impure, the wuzu was perfect, but the clothing has impurity on it. Salah will not be accepted. The place is pure, the clothing is pure, but the wuzu was not done correctly. That which is farz in salah was not completed as it's supposed to be. So the farz was left out of wuzu, due to which the wuzu itself is not correct. And if you do not have correct wuzu, then stand with sincerity, with devotion, khushu, khudu, ikhlas, and that too directly in front of the Kaaba as well. If salat is not going to be accepted. Your salat will not be accepted because the farz of wuzu has not been. So for your wuzu, taharat, ghusl, all these things, your clothing, your place, the position of qibla, all of this to be in its position, that is wa'aqim, is part of wa'aqim is salah. And then it is the case of whenever you feel like it, you just stand up and start reading your salah. But for salat it is kitab mawquta. There is a specific time that Allah Ta'ala has given for salah, to perform your salat in those correct times. This is also establishing salah. Because one is that you don't read your salat in its time, and there are people who do that. There are those who don't read salat at all. There are those who do read salat, but they read their salat by making it qaza. And by qaza we mean deliberately. Okay, they're not in the emergency service or so. But they just make it qaza, and they read it afterwards. After Isha, after Maghrib, they make up for all the days salah that they missed. That is also against aqimis salah. So salah should be performed in its time. And with regards to performing in its time as well, to perform it in its correct time. And for men folk, the addition to time is that for them to perform their salat with jama'ah. Performing your salat with jamaat is part of wa'aqim as-salah. It is part of aqim as-salah. In its correct time is part of aqim as-salah, because as I mentioned to you, when these corrupt rulers came, the change that they brought about in their salat is that they would delay salah. They would read their salah, but they would delay it because they would be lazy. That is one. And the other is that because they would be so engrossed in ruling and whatever they need to do as a ruler, that okay, salah, okay, leave it aside, we'll do it. And then it's a case of get up and read it the last time. The Sahaba who are alive at that time were very against that. The salat time would be delayed too much. And this is what Nabi said to Umar radiallahu ta'ala. So Umar radiallahu during his khilafat, he warned all the governors that he had appointed, and he specifically wrote to them and mentioned to them that the thing that I fear the most from you is with regards to this, that you will start reading your salah away from the sunnah time. Not that you will not read salah with Jamaat, but you will read it away from the sunnah time. If you maintain that, and you maintain the hifazat of your salah, then the rest of deen, then there is nothing to worry about. The rest of deen will be mahfuz, that will be protected as well. And when he mentioned with regards to protecting your salah, did not mean reading your salah, it meant reading in its correct time, because again, as I mentioned, there was no case of people not reading their salah at that time. That was not a case of people would not be reading their salah at that time. In the case of they would, but they would delay. Just as we do as well, isn't it? And this is one of the harms of not reading salah with Jamaat. If a person is punctual with salah with Jamaat, they're going to get it on time, because they know for them it is that Jamaat time. That is my time that I need to get to the masjid to read my salah. And those who are not punctual with salah with Jamaat, for them it's just what, that whole window that you've got. That whole window from this time to that time that you've got. And in that whole window that you have, it's a case of, they still an hour, they still 50 minutes, they still 40 minutes, they still half an hour, they still 10 minutes. So, there's just you still keep looking there, because you're browsing, you're doing whatever you are, whatever work you're doing. Okay, I've still got time, I've still got time, I've still got time. And then it's a case of what? And then it's just a case of run down, and then you're doing wuzu anyhow. Then you're doing wuzu anyhow, you don't even know whether your wuzu's done or not. And there's a case, just get on the musalla, up, down, up, down, up, down, no sunnahs before, after at all, because you just managed to just get your farz in. And then we wonder, how come my salah does not turn hand fashai ul munkar? But this is why it doesn't. How can it? This is how we read our salah anyway. So when that is the case, it's not going to make a change and bring about a change in our lives. And this is what happens, and especially with the lady folks as well. Because for the women folk, there is no salat with Jamaat for them. So for them, they have that window as well. So if they're not performing it on the early time, then for them, they can also get lazy. Only that, okay, they're occupied, they're doing things. So there's a delay, valid delay there. But the other is just mere laziness. I'll get up, I'll do it. And in this, whether it is ladies, men or women, what does happen is that laziness, that eventually, then what happens? The salah becomes qaza anyway. And then you look at a time, oh Allah, is it possible, suddenly to make wuzu, by the time make wuzu. I'm not going to get it anyway. So now you leave it and now it becomes next salat anyway. So that salat so easily becomes qaza. Whereas if a person, कभी दूर चल रहा है तो वो अकीम सलाह मीनिंग चलो थोड़ा रहने दीजिए इन लोगों के लिए भी अकीम सलाह भी बहुत जरूरी है सबके लिए थोड़ा सा यही दर्स काफी है वो अकीम सलाह establishing salah. So, and then there is the khushu, khuzu, that is all the concentration, the devotion that a person is supposed to have in the salah. All these things is all part of establishing the salah. But when it comes to khushu, khuzu, these will definitely, the devotion and concentration, these will enhance and increase the quality of our salah, but we are not bound for these. Meaning that khushu, khuzu is not a requisite for your salah to be accepted. Yes, taharat, time, qibla, these things are which are the conditions. These are, of course, that it should be performed in his salah. So for example, if a person thinks to himself, so let me just make life easy for me. Let me just read my fajr before I go to sleep. Let me read my fajr before I go to sleep. So I don't have to worry about getting up for fajr salah. That would be good, isn't it? Yes? If only. But then we wouldn't get Jannah, so for that, isn't it? We need to do something to get Jannah, isn't it? We need to enjoy that sleep when in the grave, knowing that now I don't have to wake up for Fajr. Because you woke up for Fajr here, now you can sleep in the grave knowing that you don't have to worry about waking up for Fajr. And if you didn't wake up here for Fajr, you're not going to get any sleep there in the grave. Allah Ta'ala protect us. Then you won't get any sleep there in the grave. So it's better off this way. But yes, if a person thinks to themselves, let me just read Salat, read my Fajr finish, then that isn't the case. Fajr will not be done. So the time, the correct time for Salat, that's why there is a fixed time for Salat. For our Salat to be performed within that time, that is a requisite, and that is what is our Aqim is Salah. And as I mentioned before, men folk, the qiyam of salah means salat with jamaat as well. And that is again something that we greatly lack in, that we may be performing our salah, we perform our salat at home. And this becomes a habit of even those who live directly across the masjid, a couple of streets away from the masjid, walk in distance, walk very easily, walk in distance from the masjid. Is a case of what habits we have in us. And that becomes a habit that we find it so difficult to get to the masjid, despite the fact that we live in the vicinity of the masjid. And there are those who, alhamdulillah, Allah Ta'ala is giving them the tawfiq. They have established salat in their lives, that despite them living far from the masjid, they'll still get into the cars and travel. For each salah, they will travel to the masjid. And you see these people, and you have awe for these people as well. That this is a commitment, but this is a commitment that comes about when you establish salat in your life. And that is another meaning of aqim salah, is to establish this way. We establish so many things in our lives, meaning rituals, routines, things that we do on a regular basis, which we do not leave. So that is what Allah Ta'ala has mentioned, waqim salah, that salat needs to be part of the routine of our lives. It needs to be part of the routine of our lives. Hence, that person who doesn't perform their salah, for them when they make their timetable, when they plan something, appointments, whatever else, it doesn't matter, they don't have to think at all about the time. For a mu'min, a believer, when you have an appointment, time you need to make an appointment, what time, then for a moment he pauses, he has to think. And what's he thinking about? Along with his normal, whatever his work schedule is, a mu'min will be thinking about time as well. Now, for example, winter as well, where they know that look, the window between Asr and Maghrib is very short. A Musalli will know that. So he's thinking of that, will I get my salah, so shall I do it before Asr or before Zohar or just leave it for after Maghrib? What time to set out on a journey, what time to call somebody? This is what aqim is salah, establishing the salah. So that's how, and then when you talk as well, in the case of think after Asr, I'll see you after Asr, I'll see you after Maghrib. And those who do not have salat in their lives, and you have those people who ask for an appointment and you say, okay, come for Asr, I'll see you after Asr, after Maghrib. Then it's a case of, what time is Asr, what time is Maghrib, what time is this? So you can understand them asking maybe, okay, what time is Asr as I.T.A. You can understand them asking that because Jamaat time differs. But them asking what time is Maghrib, Ajkal Maghrib kitne baje hai? So that shows by what planet you're living in. Because even those who do not read their salat will know what is Maghrib time, isn't it? Like when people do phone sometimes, or maybe it's for Maktab children or something as well, when you call Maghrib time, so we phone a few times. But you should know, this is something you do know. Maybe other salat times you may not be, is it 1 o'clock, Zohar, 1 o'clock, 1:30, okay, that's fine, understandable. But when it comes to Maghrib time, you know that look, it's going to be Maghrib salat at this time, and who shouldn't know that? If those who don't read the salat should know that. But it shows that we don't read our salat because we may think that way that you should know that, but those who don't even understand that at all. Jummah as well, those who read Jummah once in a while, they'll be calling 5 minutes before Jummah, they'll be ringing the phone asking what time is Jummah today. So this is the case, you'll have, to that extent you'll have those people who even eat salah, they'll be reading 5 minutes the same day morning, just 5-10 minutes before Eid, they'll ask me, is it Eid today or not? What time is Eid? We hota hai, it's common. Whereas the whole ummah, the night before, everybody wants to know, even those who didn't do anything in the month of Ramadan, even they want to know as well, okay, when Ramadan is going to be over now. So even they want to know when Eid is. So everybody is wanting to know when Eid is, and there are those who go off in such i'tikaf somewhere, that on the day of Eid itself, just before Eid Salat, they ask, is it Eid today? Is it Eid, are we doing Eid? One is asking what time is Eid Salat? What time is Eid Salat, to get an idea, because it's different times. The other is actually asking that morning, is it Eid or not? So there are those who, of that extent as well, because there was no Som in their lives anyway. There was no Som anyway, because you'll be worrying the night before that, do I need to fast the following morning or not? So you'll be concerned from night time, not during the day, that you want to know is Eid or not. So this shows that we have not established deen in our lives. So aqimis salah means what? That we establish it in such a manner that it becomes part of our lives as well. And then when it becomes part of our lives, then it is there. You cannot do without it. You know that, look, you need to be doing something, you need to be doing something, rather than be a case of, oh, I forgot, or one day you do it, one day you don't do it, 2 days you do it, 3 days you don't do it, 4 days you do it, another 2 days you don't do it. And this is how we become with our salah. And that's why our salah doesn't change us, despite the fact that salah has the quality in it to change us and prevent us from fahsha and munkar. And Allah Ta'ala mentions, وَلَا ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ أَكْبَرُ. And the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is greatest. Because it is, in salat is also one of, and the reason why Allah Ta'ala mentions وَلَا ذِكْرُ اللَّهِ is because salat is also a dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And not only that, because the dhikr of Allah is greater than other forms of worship that are devoid of Allah Ta'ala's remembrance. And salat is one which is full from beginning to end, just the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you're not doing anything else, you're not supposed to be doing anything else, but the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in it. Wallahu ya'lamu ma tasnaun. Allah Ta'ala knows of what you do. So Allah Ta'ala knows the details of what you do. And Allah Ta'ala means that Allah Ta'ala will reward you for every action carried out. Because He knows what you do, whether you have sincerity or you do not have sincerity in it, what your intentions are, why you read the Qur'an, for what purpose you read the Qur'an. Allah Ta'ala is fully aware of all of this, all of that we do, Allah Ta'ala is fully aware of it. So if our, two things Allah Ta'ala mentions here with regards to the, bring about a change within an individual, is utlu ma uhiya ilayka min al-kitab, to recite the Qur'an, and wa aqimis salah, to establish the salah. Allah Ta'ala grant us all the tawfiq that we recite the Qur'an on a regular basis and that we establish salat in our lives as well. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.